to thine own self be true. And it's really like anchored in be true to yourself, be true to your values, be true to your faith, be true to where you're going. Do not be moved in the moment by those around you, but like know your core. And if you stick to that, you'll find a life that is wildly fulfilling.
This podcast is brought to you by ISU Corp. Are you having trouble with your software projects? Is there a project that's taking too long or a technology you can't handle? We can help. We are ISU Corp, experts in custom software since 2005. With almost 20 years of experience, we can solve any technical problem from new businesses to satellite software. We've done it all. Let us turn your ideas into reality. Learn more about how we can help by visiting us at www.isucorp.ca. Your solution starts here.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Break Free podcast, where we're interviewing people that are really making this world for a better place with the companies they lead. Today we have with us Matthew. Welcome to the show.
David, I'm so thrilled to be here.
Matthew, for the audience, tell me your full name, where do you live, and what do you do for a living?
Awesome. My name is Matthew Woods. I am the CEO of a company called Apartment List, and I live on the central coast of California in San Luis Obispo.
Nice. Must be a beautiful place to live.
Yes, I'm very lucky to live here. We love it. We moved here, goodness, about 7-8 years ago from the Bay Area. My wife and I moved 10 times in 12 years, 4 times with 3 little boys, but this is home to us now.
That must have been hard. Bless your wife for that.
Yeah, she is, I think it takes a village, as they say, and so much of my career success can definitely be attributed to having an incredible partner in her.
For sure. How Central California compared to the Bay Area or South?
Yeah, Central. So during my career, I've lived all over California. I grew up in Fresno, California. I went to school on the Central Coast at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I then lived in Southern California, Northern California, and now I'm back here. So I've had a chance to kind of live in all 3 areas of the state. Central California, I think, has a lot of the kind of Central Valley kind of roots attached to it. It's a little bit of an ag community, wine community. It's then got the tourism attached that you would see in beach communities across the US, and a lot of entrepreneurial spirit. So we say it's not LA, not the Bay. It's its own thing here on the Central Coast, but it's definitely a collection of all of California and the influence that it has brought here.
That's pretty nice. I never been, so we'll love to.
You have to come visit. It's amazing. We love it.
How's the weather?
The weather is incredible if you like consistency. It's always basically 72 degrees, plus or minus 5 degrees on either side, summer and winter, and it's like a low of 50. So it's very mild. So we love it. It's a great place to live. But if you're looking for the 4 seasons, we don't have 4 seasons here. We don't get snow. We don't get extreme heat. It's kind of always mild. Here in San Luis Obispo, you need to always have a bathing suit and a light jacket with you at all times, because that's basically the weather 365 days a year.
Well, if you want to experience other climates, you can always jump on a plane and go to a freezing place or a super hot place, right?
Yeah, totally. And that's one of the benefits of living here. I can get on a quick flight and be in Arizona or Seattle in about 60 minutes. So we can find the weather if we need to.
Matthew, tell me a little bit more about Apartment List. What do you guys do there?
Yeah, Apartment List is a marketplace that helps renters find a home to live. And the easiest way to describe it, David, is to think about, in the US, 1/3 of Americans rent. So you have 100+ million Americans that are renters. And finding a place to rent is super challenging and hard. Coming from a guy who moved 10 times in 12 years, I can personally attest to that journey is often very challenging. So what Apartment List does is we make that search experience for your next place to live super simple. So we're a marketplace. We have over 30,000 apartment communities across the United States that are on Apartment List, advertising all of their open units. We have tens of millions of renters, and we connect it to. A renter comes to Apartment List looking for a place to live. They give us all of their desires in terms of the amenities they're looking for, the area they want to live, the price point that they're after, and we help match them in a super effective way with a community that will meet their needs.
That's beautiful. How long has the business been around?
So the business has been around over 10 years, and it's really a beautiful story. I mean, the story of how this business came to be was our founder, John Cobbs, grew up in Ohio and was moving to New York City and had a pretty traditional apartment search experience. At the time, he got onto Craigslist, found a place that he thought would be perfect for him, showed up in New York City, and it was anything but perfect. It was not the place, it was not the size, it was not the neighborhood. And he thought, gosh, this has got to be easier. There's got to be a better way. And so since that inception, the mission of the business is, and the vision is, we really believe everyone deserves a home they love. Renters are not second-class citizens. They're us. They are folks that need a place to live, as again, all of us have done in our lives. And so that was the beginning of the journey and the formation of Apartment List that had basically kicked us off into the place we are today.
I find amazing that mature companies like yours come out of the necessity of the founder. It's incredible. I interviewed another person a couple of weeks ago, and he and his partner founded this place that helps people that got family members that are paralyzed, or they are like in extreme health conditions, to find care, to find home care, and it's because the co-founder, she found herself like that. Her mom got really sick and she didn't know what to do, and it was a horrible experience. And now they made this app. Now they have 300 employees, and it took 10 years to get it successful, but now a lot of people are benefiting because one person had a horrible experience and decided to do something about it, just like your founder.
Yeah, just like John, and that's exactly it. And here we are today. We have 6 million apartment units on Apartment List. We've helped over 1 million renters find a place to live. And again, that necessity came out of the pain that John experienced and is really our guiding light today. And it's also manifested itself into kind of the programs that we pursue at Apartment List. At some point in this conversation, David, we should talk about how Apartment List has this big business that is helping renters find home. But we have also found this opportunity because of all of the exposure we have to renters, all of the apartment communities, to find the moments of goodness in order to give back through a program we call Homebridge, which really helps folks in need because of natural disaster and domestic violence find home, find the security of home in a way that they would otherwise not be able to do. It's a really beautiful thing.
That's nice. When you are a giving back portion of your venture and you assign some hard-earned dollars to that, then everybody in the company starts changing their culture and their attitude, because they know that their job matters more than just bringing home, the daily bread.
Yes, totally. I mean, I believe really firmly and very strongly that life is about choices in life. We have been so privileged in the opportunity to build an incredible business like this. But I often say, and I tell our team every day, we were just all together in Chicago not too long ago, over 200 people from across the United States and those that traveled internationally from Spain and Israel. And we said, if we build this business right, every single day, every A-lister, as we refer to them, every employee of Apartment List will go home and say, gosh, I am so darn lucky to work at a company that is finding commercial success, delivering meaningful value to our communities, where I am valued and growing. And at the same time, as a leadership team, we will go home every day and say, we are so dang lucky to have Enter employee's name working here. They could choose anywhere in the world to work, and they've chose a partner list. What a gift. And I think when you have that mutual alignment, that's when the magic happens, because people go above and beyond. They really lean into kind of the core operating principles we have to deliver incredible value in a meaningful way.
And that's what the that's why it's so important to have great leaders in the organization, because what you're talking about is called culture, and culture can only be built from the top down. And you know what you have is a level of gratitude, and you inspire people to be grateful. And one of the ways that you show that you're grateful is by helping others that they cannot help themselves.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a man of faith, and once I came back, I got lost for a long time. Once I came back to my faith, I started changing my culture. And you know, the Bible says, they asked Jesus, what can we do? And he said, do unto others the same way you would like them to do unto you. And that's what you're doing. Like, so you're putting yourself in this position. In our case, what we did is we tried. So I was born in Guatemala, so that country is very close to my heart, even though I've been here most of my life. So I said, okay, let's try to help a school that has extreme poverty around it, but let's try to help it with a North American organization, so we know it's clean and it's not going to, the money is not going to be lost. And we started doing that in, I think it was in 2015, 2014, and now the kids, you know, they are graduating. Like, we started with the school with one classroom with kindergarten. Now they have up to grade 6. They're going to grade 7 next year, and just keep resolving. We're getting a brand new bus this year, and we promote this in the company. And you know, one time they had a huge need because one of their sponsors were lost. Like, they didn't want to do it anymore, and they had 15 kids without sponsorship. So I posted an ad on the intranet inside our company, and everybody picked up kids. Like in half an hour, all the kids had sponsors from our employees.
Right? Yeah, it's so amazing. As a follower myself, I think that you can lead from a posture of being arms crossed or arms open. And I think that, you know, when you build a company, you can have wild commercial success, as we are experienced, and do it the right way. And that's what I'm so incredibly passionate about, and our leaders are. You know, we often say our dream will be that someday there will be an article written about a partner list, and it will be titled something like the world's most thoughtful, high-performing business. And it will talk about the fact that you can win a market, you can build an incredible company while doing it in an incredibly thoughtful and kind way. And thoughtful and kind does not mean you don't hold people to high standards. Thoughtful and kind does not mean you don't evolve the people and the culture and the team to meet the needs of the business. But you do it in a very direct, a very ethical, a very transparent way that everyone can go home and say, we're winning the right way, and we're doing good along that journey.
That's beautiful. Matthew, how do you get into this company?
Yeah, great question. So this is kind of the second act of my career. And by that, what I mean is, obviously, outside of work, my core priorities are, I'm a husband, I'm a dad to three boys, I'm a brother, I'm a son, and I'm a leader in a business. And I think about, like, what is this, how do I prioritize that on a regular basis? But professionally, the first act of my career is I spent 15 years in clean tech and solar energy, you know, and that's now 25 years ago. So 25 years ago, solar energy was not a mainstream thing. It was just an idea. But we had this belief at the time that we could do something wildly important for the environment. As an environmentalist myself, I thought, hey, we need to find a way to make this planet healthier and more sustainable to live on. And we spent 15 years building a solar energy business. What started as an idea evolved into now a 12,000 person company called Sunrun. It's a publicly traded solar energy company. Wow. It's doing incredible things to bring solar to the masses all over the United States. So that was act one of my career. And in that act, That is what necessitated 10 moves in 12 years and really gave me firsthand the experience and understanding of what it meant to move. The biggest thing that I learned in that Act One was, gosh, I really wanted to work for a company with a mission that mattered. David, I don't know if you have children yourself, but having 3 kids, they're often asking like, Dad, what do you do? And so for 15 years, their interpretation of what Dad did was he sells the sun and he's saving the planet. And I saw just that glimmer of like a mission that matters in the eyes of my kids. And I said, gosh, my entire career journey will be focused on companies that are really adding incredible value to our world. So 15 years into that job, 10 moves, I had the privilege of running a huge 1,000-person sales organization. And at the time, Apartment List was much smaller. This is 7 years ago, much smaller in size, and was really starting that incredible up and to the right trajectory of growth. And our founder, John, decided that he wanted to hire a sales leader, a go-to-market leader that really had experience in building teams with incredible culture, incredible performance that could scale. I was privileged enough to be interviewed for that role. I took it, and that was 7 years ago. So I spent many years at a partner list leading our sales organization. I then stepped in as president, whereby I ran most all of the functions of the company with the exception of finance. And then 2 years ago, I was offered the opportunity to step in as CEO, and I've been CEO ever since.
Was it hard to make that transition from solar energy to apartment listings?
Very
different business.
Totally different. And it was really hard. And I think if I'm being vulnerable about it, I was wildly insecure about the move. I mean, I think I was trying to answer, am I capable of being a leader, growing a business outside of what I had done basically since I graduated from college? But I wanted to answer that tough question, which is, can I stretch myself? Can I do something else? Can I learn to lead in a different industry? And so it was definitely a step of faith, if you will, into making that decision. But I believe we've answered that call, and it's been a great experience for me thus far.
And also, Matthew, I must imagine that your sales process is completely different too. I mean, I will imagine that Suncor will employ highly trained salespeople that will actually pursue leads that people want to buy solar systems. What you guide yourself into is into a SaaS company, really. You are a technology company that happens to rent apartments, but I must imagine it's a huge platform where the people come to you, so your marketing has to be more inbound, not outbound.
Right? Yeah, what a great question, and I think a very astute observation. Solar is an outbound sales motion. I mean, it is literally sales consultants standing in stores like Costco and Home Depot, teaching people about the benefits of solar, knocking on people's doors, a large call center. This is a very different space. That was like an equipment sale business, kind of like remodel, right? You're going out and putting solar panels on someone's home. This is a technology company. It's a technology company that has built this huge marketplace. And when you think about really successful marketplaces, think of companies like Uber or Airbnb, where you have supply at Uber being the drivers, demand being the riders, and their entire ethos is matching those two together. Airbnb is travelers and hosts, matching them together. We built a marketplace focused on renters and apartment communities. That could have been directed anywhere. And the technology that our business has around machine learning and AI can literally be pivoted towards other marketplace industries. But as you suggested, this was going to be a new challenge for me because the sales motion, the customer acquisition was very different. In solar, it was a one-time transaction. Here we're building deep partnerships. We've been working with some companies for 10 years. Mm-hmm. Generating hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of value for each and every one of those partners of ours. So yes, the sales motion is different. the skill set that you need within your sellers is quite a bit different. The technical aptitude of your employees is different. But isn't that what makes growing the business exciting and fun? The opportunity to kind of remake yourself, rebuild and re-innovate yourself all the time.
For sure. And also, I can imagine that cultures were different. The scale of the business is different too, right?
The scale of the business is quite a bit different. But I'll tell you a little bit about that journey, David. When I left my prior company, Sunrun, as I mentioned, at the time we had like 4,000 people. I had 1,000 people on my team. I came to Apartment List, and I believe on day one I had 6 individuals on my team, 1,000 to 6. And I was so energized by that. I was back in startup land. I left a company where I had a large team of folks supporting and helping. And I came here and we were building it from the ground up. You know, one of my favorite memories of making that transition is when I joined Apartment List, one of the things that John was very focused on was the culture of leadership. And he said, gosh, Matthew, you're on the road a lot. You need to be in the office. And as I mentioned at the beginning, David, I was living remote. The whole company was in San Francisco, and I was the one leader living outside of the Bay Area on the Central Coast. We had made that move a few years prior. And I said, not to worry, John, I'll be there. So for my first 2.5 years, 3 years at the company, I was on the road 100 days a year. I was in the office traveling. And that first year, I went from staying at some fancy hotel at a publicly traded company to sleeping on the top bunk with my 5-year-old nephew at my brother's house in San Francisco. And I remember so vividly, like going to bed night one, calling my wife Allison and saying, oh my gosh, how did we get here again? We've already gone through this stage. But she very clearly reminded me, like, this is the fun part of growth, right? You are moving with a ton of speed. You get to shape the culture. You collectively, with the team around you, get to build something great. And so that's been key to this journey as well.
It's also revitalizing, I think, right? And getting comfortable in a place also prevents your growth. I bet you have grown so much since you did that change, right?
Oh my gosh, you're exactly right. And you know, it stretches you. And I think when you go through career changes, life changes, you talked about kind of stepping away from faith, stepping back into it, which each of those changes in your life, you have the ability to kind of take stock of where you are, what you want to focus on, what you want to change. And it's almost like you get a reset button. And a career change is somewhat of a reset button. And so when I showed up on Apartment List, I got to be very explicit and ask myself, how do I want to lead differently? What are my strengths that I want to really like lean into? What are my weaknesses that I want to surround myself with incredible people that can lift me up? And so I think, as you suggested, David, it is just a great growth accelerant and allows you to do, you know, hard things. And I think we're wired to do hard things. And I think if you believe that you are capable, as I believe about our entire team, great things can happen.
Hard things are the ones that makes you grow. Easy things, they are nice, but you stay stagnant, right? Like I always compare that to going to do a workout. If you really want to build up muscle, you have to break that muscle by pushing more than you are supposed to push. If you don't do that, it's gonna be nice, but you're not going to see the difference, right?
Totally. Yesterday, I couldn't agree with you more. And if you're not doing the hard things, it's pretty stagnant. Yesterday, in one of our leadership meetings, we had an icebreaker. We're a remote first company, so most of us are sitting in different places across the United States. We come together on a very regular cadence, but on a Monday through Friday, often we are on Zoom, just as we are today. And we think that it's important to build relationships with folks because we think you do your best work when there's a high degree of trust, when you can disagree and have constructive dialogue that isn't always perfect and beautiful, but it's something that you can get into. So we often do icebreakers. We talk about our personal selves. And yesterday we went through an exercise where we asked everyone on our senior leadership team, in the last 12 months, What is something you are really proud of in your life outside of work? Um, and to make your point, I wrote them all down, but David, to your point, every single person's answer was basically something that they did that was hard and uncomfortable. Our head of legal, Bella, she's hysterical. She had this dream of wanting to do stand-up comedy and try that. And that was super uncomfortable, but she said she did it. She did an open like mic night in her synagogue and went and did that. Many people talked about their health and their fitness journey as an example, but without a fault, every single person was focused on challenging themselves in a way they hadn't been challenged before to get the growth that you speak of.
Now, sometimes life will throw that challenge at you and you have to go through it no matter what, right? What happened during the pandemic? How did it affect you guys as a company?
Yeah, I mean, good mix. David, you're totally correct. So on my desk, I'm going to build on that because you talked about sometimes life gives you a challenge. Growing a business is hard, very hard. Partner list is several hundred employees now. We are north of $100 million in revenue, growing 30+% a year. That means every year we have a ton of failure, a ton. It's not all success, and we really want to embrace that. So we have these operating principles that sit on my desk. This and a picture of my family are the kind of two things that guide me. And the very first operating principle that we talk about is we say embrace the beautiful mess. Embrace the beautiful mess. And you talked about the pandemic. The pandemic was it was a mess. Let's put it that way. When the pandemic first came out, we had all of our employees, our entire team, effectively sitting together in San Francisco. We left on a Friday having a huge company event and never came back to the office. There was a period of time where we thought, goodness, we might go out of business. Think about it. Our business success is directly tied to Americans moving. A partner list is a business where we help renters find home, but we only get paid if a renter successfully moves into an apartment. So the incentives are perfectly aligned. And it's why we've been seeing so much success, because we go to our buyers and we say, goodness, you only have to pay for our service if we deliver what you most covet, which is a renter moving into your building. What happened during the pandemic? Everyone was sheltering in place. Nobody was moving. We were all terrified about the potential implications of catching COVID, and it was a terrifying time. And we stepped into that and said, goodness, we're going to operate in a uniquely apartment list way. And we really buy into this of like, what is uniquely apartment list? And during the pandemic event, we cared more. We care more for our partners, care more for our people, care more for the entire ecosystem we've built. And so in COVID, when our competitors were panicked about whether or not their customers would still pay the bills, whether people would still be moving, we took a different tact. We called all of our partners and said, this is as terrifying for you as it is for us. How can we help you? How can we help you with your business? Some said, apartment list, we just need some space and grace. Mm-hmm. We are like trying to make sure our renters and our tenants are safe and comfortable. We said, great, you won't hear from us for a while. Others said, we need you to help like us with our business in a different and a more acute way. And we said, great, we'll do that. So we really led through this like care more philosophy during COVID, and it paid incredible dividends, David. Our business, thrived. We made some tough choices. We unfortunately had to like part ways with some of our team because we weren't sure how the growth was, but we came out of it even stronger. And I think it's a testament to embracing the beautiful mess. Like it's a mess, it's our own. How do we find success through each of those challenges. And I think this is a company that has just done that so incredibly well.
One of my main businesses during COVID lost 50% of its revenue in 3 days. All the manufacturing plants that were, so we have a company that creates custom software products for our clients to grow their profits. And all our manufacturing clients shut down, and they said, we could not even pay to continue the project going, projects that were, halfway done.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, what do I do now, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things that I learned early on in my career is that I needed to build a strong foundation in terms of an egg nest for rainy days.
Yeah.
So we always try to have positive cash flow, but at the same time, we always have investments that are secured and cash on hand in case of an emergency. So I remember it was like by May, we lost half of our revenue. We didn't have to let people go because by June, everybody came back and stronger and even more.
Yeah.
And so we just had to sustain the salaries of our people. So we were just reinventing ourselves while we had some time. Mm-hmm. We were working our internal systems, and we write software for ourselves too. So we were maintaining, building better. And before I knew, we had a better year than we expected. But it's because we had that. We know that storms come. Like one of the biggest problems that entrepreneurs have, or CEOs, is that if you have wonderful years and you have increasing revenue year over year, you think it's going to keep happening all the time without knowing that in a blink of an eye, you could lose your shirt, right? Yes. You could lose your seat.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't be more accurate. And I think we're seeing that happen right now. In Silicon Valley. So Apartment List is a venture-backed company. We have raised over $170 million from venture capitalists to grow and scale the company. Fortunately, I think we are in that top 10% of all businesses that has been able to successfully grow and isn't dependent on yet more inflow of capital. So many companies around us built businesses that were just building towards the next fundraise, the next infusion of capital. And what you've seen happen, David, is over the last year and a half, that's stopped. There is a fraction of the investing going on. Now, there are some exceptions like AI, where you see a lot of capital inflow, but for the vast majority of businesses and kind of that mid-scale growth, there isn't new capital inflow or flowing into businesses, which means they have to stand on their own 2 feet. And many companies around us are unable to do so. We've been really lucky. I'm so honored. Our team is just incredible across the board in terms of all of our leadership team. But one of the outstanding organizations we have is we have an incredible finance team. A lot of companies, that's like behind the scenes, making sure checks are clearing and we can make payroll. But very different at Apartment List. It's like the tip of the spear. It's guiding strategy. It's thinking about how do we make sure that we're well positioned in an up market and a down market. Our CFO, Lev Finkelstein, and his team, and Andrew Robertson, and Nikki, and Dolly, and is just incredible in being able to have the foresight to think about how do we perform in all market environments. In that regard, we were able to move through in a time like COVID, come out of it stronger, and now, where many companies are struggling and having to pull back, we're able to put our foot on the gas. And that's exciting. And that's really a testament to the team.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I saw the writer on the wall when I saw Silicon Bank going bankrupt. I'm like, what's going to happen with startups now?
It's wild, right? I remember that day vividly, getting a phone call saying, oh my gosh. And I was like, wow, thank goodness that for us in particular, that same incredible finance leader, Lev, that I just spoke to, a year earlier, right when he started with our company, had come to our board and said, I think we need to think bigger about our banking relationships. We need some diversification. And fortunately for us, moved our banking relationship away from Silicon Valley Bank to another large bank, JP Morgan. And at the time, that seemed like a really silly decision. that Silicon Valley Bank was like indestructible. They were the banker of all. And Lev said, they're great, nothing bad about them, but let's have some diversity in the business. In the event there is a rainy day. That rainy day came, and we just kept moving forward.
It's just preventing for the future, right? It's something that, as a business leader, you are responsible for. And congratulations, because you're doing great.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a byproduct.
You guys are doing great.
Yeah.
I'm always, when people ask me, like, I come from the corporate world, and I had many wonderful jobs, and then I started to jump in business, and they asked me, like, you're crazy, like, why do you leave your job stability? And I tell them, well, the only way to avoid risk is by you being in a bit more control of that risk management.
Yes.
Right? And you must know this, Matthew, you are in control of the risk management of a lot of people, right? So it's scary, but at the same time, it's empowering, because you have that humble servant leadership that you have. You're willing to take advice from a whole bunch of people and take the right choices.
Yeah,
right?
I appreciate you saying that. One, I take the responsibility very seriously. Again, I feel, as I started with, every day I go home and say, gosh, how lucky are we that we have this group of people that are dedicating their careers to this business. But it's our collective responsibility to make sure that they're investing these formidable years of their professional lives in a place that can continue to grow and scale. You have a sign behind you, David, that says "Be strong and courageous." And I think when you think about being strong, I think that's about going out and like playing to win, right? Being in an environment where you're like, hey, we're gonna go and do really hard things, but we're gonna do it in a way to not be safe, but to go win, to deliver really incredible outcomes. It's one of our operating principles. Number two, play to win. And you talk about being courageous. When I think about being courageous, I think about, oftentimes that means doing the unpopular thing. That means making the decision that may create short-term pain in order to create longer-term gain. Being courageous means raising your hand and saying, I don't know. I don't have the right answers. We have another operating principle that we call out as be a learn-it-all, not a know-it-all. And to me, that's courage. That's courage as a leader to say, I don't know what the next answer is, but I have the confidence that the team around us does. Let's look to them to help guide the business to where it needs to be.
I think the solution is always ask better questions.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, if you formulate that, but the problem with that is that if your ego is not in check, you will never ask better questions because you think you know it all.
Yeah.
And that's how great companies fall.
I think that is a dilemma of so many. And I'm often, telling the team, again, I find it's a great privilege to be in this role and this opportunity to be a CEO of this thriving tech business that has huge opportunity in front of it, has an incredible mission that we're delivering on, and even more incredible people that are working here. But I'm just another person sitting in a role and sitting that happens to be in this seat. The fact that my title says CEO does not mean I have all the answers and know exactly what to do next. And I think that's one of the problems that leaders often face. They think that because they're in this seat, whatever that seat may look like, there is either an expectation that they have all the answers, or they believe they've earned the right to have all the answers and in a singular way drive the strategy or the decisions. And I think that's quite foolish. I think the best leaders surround themselves with people that are way smarter than them, that challenge them to think differently. Don't basically pander to their leader, but challenge them to be better. And I think if you build a good company, that's what that leadership team looks like.
It's beautiful, Matthew. Thank you so much. Such wise advice and knowledge and wisdom. Thank you for your time. 40 minutes has been by, and I don't want to abuse that time. I know you're a busy executive. I'm going to ask you one last question before we finish the podcast. You see how fast time went by? It's incredible.
Hey, I could do this for the next 2 hours, David. It's easy.
One last question. If you have access to a billboard in front of the busiest highway in California,
Yeah.
what would you write on it?
For my own personal life or for our business?
You can have two billboards. So let's have two.
So if it was for my personal life, it would be the message that my dad has signed every single one of his letters to myself and my two brothers, and is a sign that hangs in our house. And it's to thine own self be true. And it's really like anchored in be true to yourself, be true to your values, be true to your faith, be true to where you're going. Do not be moved in the moment by those around you, but like know your core. And if you stick to that, you'll find a life that is wildly fulfilling. So down in our family room, we have a sign that says TTOSBT, to thine own self be true. That would be my billboard. That would be as much for my adolescent and teenage boys that are growing and they're going to step through so much of life. And I think everyone needs that reminder, like you're good enough, like your true self is good enough. Love that and follow that. If it was a billboard for apartment list, I think it would be as simple as the core belief of this company, which is everyone deserves a home they love. And it would be, yes, those renters too. And we want to, and the reason I say that, David, is the world is changing. The American dream of, a home ownership, white picket fence is evolving. There are more and more Americans now that may rent for the rest of their lives because that's what creates more opportunity to take the next job, to move with their family, to get closer to the best schools, to really create the safety and the security that they want in their lives. And I think for too long, we have been told that renting is not the dream, and we believe it is. And we think if we do it in a beautiful way and we help everyone fulfill that vision, home is where life happens. It's where relationships build. It's where kids have their first steps. It's where parents and families commune. And we think if we do that well and really deliver everyone a home they love, we're accelerating the success, the happiness, and the fulfillment of kind of everyone around us.
Matthew, people forget that the renter that is paying the rent and they're on time, they are the owners of that property during the period of time that they occupy it.
Correct.
That's the way we see it. I have a real estate business on the side, and that's the way we see it. The people that are renting our places, they are the owners of that house. Plus, I have the responsibility to make sure that house runs perfect. And if anything breaks, it better be fixed as soon as possible, right?
Totally, David. I proposed to my wife when I was living at 350 Bud Avenue, an apartment in Campbell, California. We found out about the birth of our first child, that Allison was pregnant when we were renting a place in Santa Cruz, California. I got my first job promotion when I was renting a place in San Francisco, California. We brought home our third child to a place that we were living in Burlingame, California. Point being, I rented all these places, but that's where my life was being built. And I think that we should create that opportunity for everyone. So to thine own self be true, and everyone deserves a home they love. And I think if both of those things could sit side by side, we'd have a pretty good existence.
That's beautiful. And even the economy is changing so fast that renting is an alternative. It's a great alternative. I live in Canada, and I know it's a lot more expensive than North America is, but where you live might be the same as here. And to have the entry level single house is $750,000. Not in the city. I live an hour away from the city. In the city is about 1.1 million. Now do the mortgage on that and compare it to a rent that will get you the same place.
Yeah, for the longest time, there was this belief, and it was actually true, that renting was not a financially astute decision because you could be applying that towards a mortgage. But today that's not true. With interest rates where they are, cost of home ownership what it is, if we were simply optimizing around the best financial decision, we would rent and take the difference in our rent to a home payment and invest that. And not only would that create great financial wealth, but think it would create great opportunity. I mean, it's not lost on me how privileged I am to have been able to move 10 times. All of those 10 moves were in support of a career. If I had a home that I was stuck in, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And so now I have this incredible privilege of leading this amazing business, but it was built on the back of being a renter. And I'll never lose sight of that.
I'm going to leave it with this last story. When I grew up, one of my best friends, they were very rich. I was like middle low, I had problems growing up financially. I didn't know because I was a kid. I was a happy kid. But we were not as affluent as my friends were. And the dad of this guy, he owned, I don't think it was like 30, 40 properties that he was renting. Like he was a property owner. But the house where they lived, it was always rented. And I never understood that until I figured out that he wanted flexibility. Yes. He wanted to be able to say, I pick up my things and, in 2-3 months, I'm anywhere else.
Yeah.
And he also knew that, back in the financial laws back then, it was better for him to rent than to own his own house because he could deduct more things out of it for his business. So, I mean, here is a multimillionaire that's renting his primary home.
Flexibility creates opportunity. Absolutely. And renting is a core driver of that for sure. David, this has been such a fun conversation. I really appreciate, I appreciate your passion. I appreciate your insight. I appreciate your perspective that you bring. It's enlightening. And I think it just brings everyone up around you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much to you too, Matthew, for your valuable time. If people like to find more about you or go into the business and start using it for their housing needs, where can they find you?
Yeah, so to experience the incredible renting experience on Apartment List, it's apartmentlist.com, just like it's spelled. If you'd like to connect with me, you can do so on LinkedIn, Matthew Woods. Apartment List would be the easiest thing to search. And you can always email me, mwoods@apartmentlist.com. Any of those avenues, and I'd love to engage.
Wonderful, Matthew. Thank you so much. God bless you and have a beautiful rest of the week.
Thanks. God bless. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's all for today's episode of the Break Free Podcast. Head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Starting your own business can be tough, but it doesn't have to be. Visit davidmansilla.com to pick up a copy of the #1 international best-selling book, Breaking Out of Corporate Jail. Expand what you consider to be possible and reach your full potential. And join us on the next episode.